Welcome everybody to another Fat Guy Builds episode. Today, doing some H&R springs on my 2020 Ford Explorer ST. Thanks to Edge Autosport for hooking it up. All you got to do is give them a call, send them an email, and they can get you whatever you want pretty much. It doesn't have to be on their website. Good guys, ships fast, and it's all good. So anyways, I'm going to take you step by step how to put these on. Here's the part number for the H&R springs. Lift up the vehicle, put it on jack stands, take the wheels off. In the front, break them all loose, take out these two pretty much. Leave one in so we can work in the bottom without the top flopping around. Just make sure it's loose so that you can do it by hand. You don't have to use a breaker bar or nothing. Because the battery and stuff on the passenger side is in the way, I'm going to need to lift this piece up enough. So you unscrew these round ones, and then this little clip, take a flathead screwdriver, pop the clip out this way, and then all these clips will come loose, and then we can get to this bolt on the strut tower. Now you can lift it up and get to it. To get the two bolts loose for the strut, you're going to need a 24mm and a 21mm. To get the brake line bracket out of the way is a 8mm, just a single right here. To disconnect the front sway bar, I needed a T47 Torx bit and a 21mm. I had to give the T47 a slight tap with the hammer to go in. It's a little tight, but not crazy tight. So just keep that in mind. It's not just going to slip in, but it will come out. Once that's disconnected, just flop it down out of the way. To get this pushed out, because it's knurled, you're going to find the easiest way for me to do it was put the 24mm socket on it and then beat the piss out of it, and then it comes out. So now I got to do it for the bottom. Take one bolt out and both nuts, leave the one bolt in. Now we're going to go on top and take out that strut mount bolt. Now that the strut mount bolts are all out, it drew pretty far. So now we're going to take out that bottom bolt and just pull the strut out. You're going to need a 21mm for this top one. Before you tighten the compressors down, if you get the nut to look like this, loosening it, then tighten the compressors, and then the nut will come right off. Once this is broke loose, I'm going to squeeze this the rest of the way. Not all the way shut, but squeeze it more to where there becomes a gap here or on the bottom. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Then I'm going to zip this off. Well, I had issues with this one, so I used a pair of vice grips. I grabbed it all the way at the top of the shaft as far as I could grab it, and that allowed me to hold it enough to get the nut off. And even if this gets marred up way up here, it's not in the functioning part of the strut, so it doesn't matter. Here's a comparison with them both laying on the floor. Front, blue one is new, black one is stock. You need to make sure it's set into the rubber little groove it's supposed to be in. Also up top there's a little rubber groove. Make sure both of them are in the grooves, otherwise it won't seat properly. With the new springs, I could push down, just physically push down, and get the nut started. So I'm going to try running it down like this and see what happens. Now we're going to reverse the steps. So you get it in there, put the one in the bottom, then we're going to rotate the strut mount to line up with the holes on the top, Now that everything up here is torqued down, tightened up, we're going to move below and finish this side. After you smack in these bolts with a hammer, tighten these nuts back down. Go ahead, put the bracket back and put the 8mm bolt back in. Reinstall and tighten the sway bar end link. Double check everything you loosened and tighten up if you forgot anything. Then go ahead and put the wheel back on. Last step for the up front. Double check that all the 15s are tight with the vehicle on the ground, and then hit that center one, the 21mm, with an impact and make sure it's tight. Support the shock mount area here and just push up on it like a smidge, 1/8 of an inch, just so that when we go to take off these bolts, it doesn't just fall and drop all hard. So the bolts will come out, then we can lower this. You're going to need an 18mm ratchet and a T40 Torx bit, or the correct tool, which I have not researched what it actually is. So this is very important. This is not really a Torx bit, but a T40 will sort of fit it. Now, you just break it loose with the 18. You're going to do all the tightening and loosening with the 18 wrench. All you're going to use the Torx bit for is to hold it from spinning. Then once you have it pulled out, put the nut on, and I just sort of going to rest it up there like that. With the bottom shock mount supported, take out these two 18mm bolts. Once those bolts are out, you can release the pressure and lower it down slowly. Take the shock the rest of the way out with an 18mm nut on that side. This will give you more room. I took the 23mm nut off of the 22mm bolt and pushed it through just enough so that this could come down a little and clear the hole. Put the spring compressor on the one side so that it clears the frame and gives it just enough squish to make your life easier to pull it out. I put a crowbar into the little notch in the control arm so I can move it. Here's a comparison between the factory black spring for the rear and the aftermarket rear. You want to get the bottom set in, and you're going to turn it clockwise, and it will lock into a little tab, the little foot. And then the same thing with the top. You're going to lock the top of the spring in to this rubber piece, and then we can pry it and put it in. So I pried it out, pried it in, and now comes the work of jacking up this corner to get this hole to line back up. Once you have this jacked up, you don't have to use one of these. You can use a jack if you're on the ground. I would not suggest trying to do this job on the ground though. I mean, you can, but whatever. Anyways, once this is jacked up enough, that will line up. You tap it back through the hole and then put on the nut. We've changed the geometry of the suspension now. So what you want to do is loosen this nut, this nut, this nut, and that's it. Then put pressure, jack up here as if the car is on wheels. Jack it up pretty hard till you see the compression pretty much stopping, and then retighten everything. Once all the bolts are tight again, I torqued mine, all the smaller ones to 80 foot-pounds and the big ass ones to 100 foot-pounds. You can, if you think that's too tight, or if that's actually tighter than what they're supposed to be, then that's fine. Do it however you want to do it. but I personally make them till I think they're tight enough. And now, took some pressure off to line up the shock bolts. So I have it slid in to the bottom. I'm going to put in the top ones, get those started. Then I'll put a little bit of pressure on them so that these indents touch those studs. And then I'm going to tighten those down. Tap in the bottom of the shock, put the nut on by hand first, and then torque it down. Once both sides are done, you're going to take your sway bar, jack up each side, and reconnect the sway bar. There we go. The back is done. So just go through before you put the wheels on, double, triple check everything, make yourself feel good that it's all tight. So my factory ride height is roughly 5 1/4 to 5 1/8 inch from the tire to the top of the wheel wells. Now we are at pretty much 3 1/2. Here's the factory ride height from a side angle. Here's the side view after. Here's a front view, factory. And here is the same exact front view. I'd like to thank everyone for coming and checking out another Fat Guy Builds episode. The truck looks awesome now. I'll find out if it helped out with gas mileage. It should, with wind drag, blah blah blah, but who knows. But hit like, subscribe, all that stuff. Until next time, wrench on.